Sean Combs was never the best rapper, yet for decades he stayed in control. His albums tell that story. Who he elevated, who carried the records, and where the grip started to loosen. This ranking follows that timeline. Every Diddy album, from worst to best. Let's start at the bottom. 7. 11:11, When the Artist Vanishes. By 2014, hip-hop had shifted again. Electronic music was everywhere. Dance producers were crossing into pop, and Diddy followed the wave. 11:11 was billed as a collaboration with dance producer Guy Gerber, an experiment, a vibe project, something left field. What it turned out to be was absence. Most of this album lives in the background. Mid-tempo instrumentals, spacey textures, tracks that drift without urgency. And drifting might have been fine. If this felt authored, Diddy barely appears. No guiding voice, no framing, no sense that anyone is steering the ship. This doesn't sound like a curator assembling pieces. It sounds like a name attached after the fact. That's the real problem here, not quality. Identity. For the first time in his career, Diddy feels unnecessary to his own project. Take his name off the cover and nothing about the music changes. And in a discography built on control, presence, and positioning, that's fatal. Because when the artist disappears, all that's left is atmosphere. And atmosphere alone never builds legacy. 6th. Forever, the illusion of momentum. 2 years earlier, everything had gone right. No Way Out turned Diddy into the face of Bad Boy at its commercial peak, so when Forever arrived, expectations were locked in. Same formula. Big features and big producers, big presence. What changed was the hunger. Forever plays like an album made on reputation. The guest list is stacked, but the energy feels borrowed. The production sounds expensive, yet strangely lifeless. And once the spotlight stays on Diddy for too long, the cracks show. He struggles to stay on beat. His verses drag. Hooks and features do the heavy lifting while he lingers in the foreground. This is where the difference between curation and coasting becomes obvious. On No Way Out, the machine felt urgent. Here, it feels comfortable. Even the guests sound like they showed up out of obligation, not inspiration. A few posse cuts toward the end inject life back into the album, but by then, the damage is done. Forever matters because it exposes something important. Success had started replacing instinct. The Bad Boy engine was still running, but the steering felt loose, and that illusion of momentum would define the next phase of Diddy's career. 5th. Money-Making Mitch, the feature safety net. By 2015, Diddy understood the assignment. Streaming had taken over. Mixtapes moved faster than albums, and relevance depended on collaboration. Money-Making Mitch leaned fully into that reality. The presentation is familiar. High-end production, A-list features, big names doing most of the work. When the guests show up, the project works. Pusha T brings urgency. The locks sound locked in. Lil' Kim and King Los add weight. The problem starts when Diddy has to carry momentum himself. His verses feel like placeholders. His hooks land softly. The energy dips the moment the safety net disappears. This album survives because of delegation, not direction. There's no collapse here, no outright failure. It drifts through your ears, sounds fine, and leaves without a footprint. It doesn't embarrass Diddy, but it doesn't elevate him either. And that's the tell. By this point, Diddy knew how to assemble talent. What he no longer had was something urgent to say. 4th. The saga continues, the label before the artist. By 2001, the ground had shifted. Bad Boy had lost its center of gravity. Biggie was gone. Mace had stepped away. The original era was over. The saga continues, arrives at a crossroads, and you can hear it immediately. This project feels less like a solo album and more like a showcase, a proving ground for the next generation of Bad Boy artists. Carl Thomas stands out. Black Rob brings grit. G-Dep sounds hungry. They carry the album's best moments. Diddy, on the other hand, shifts roles. Less rapper, more master of ceremonies. And that works, to a point. His verses sound tighter than they did on Forever. The ghostwriting is stronger. The hits still hit, but the album runs long. The second half sags, filler creeps in and refuses to leave. This is where Diddy's priorities become clear. The focus is no longer himself. It's infrastructure, brand continuity, keeping the bad boy name alive. That makes the saga continues important, even if it isn't exciting. It captures the exact moment Diddy stops chasing greatness and starts managing decline. Third, Last Train to Paris, style over substance. By 2010, Diddy had moved again. Hip-hop was global, pop and dance music blurred together, and chasing a feeling mattered more than chasing charts. Last Train to Paris was framed as a journey, a lost love story set across Europe. Neon lights, late nights, emotional distance. Sonically, it's cohesive. Probably the most cohesive album he ever released. Eurodance production, sweeping synths, clean modern textures that still sound polished years later. And that's where the praise usually stops. The real stars here are Dirty Money. Dawn Richard and Kalena Harper carry nearly every track. Their vocals give the album its emotion, its drama, its movement. Diddy floats above it all. He narrates, he punctuates, but he rarely drives. Most songs settle into a groove and stay there. They don't explode. They don't evolve. They fade out instead of landing. That's why this album developed a cult following. It's a mood record. Great late at night. Hard to remember in the morning. Last Train to Paris succeeds on atmosphere, not moments. And while that makes it respectable, it also makes it limited. Because once again, the question creeps in. Would this album work just as well without him? Second, Press Play, reinvention with restraint. The sound of hip-hop had shifted, pop crossovers ruled the charts, and standing still meant disappearing. Press Play feels like a conscious reset. This is Diddy leaning into polish. Cleaner hooks, smoother transitions, a tighter sense of purpose than anything he'd released since the late 90s. The features headline the album. Christina Aguilera, Keisha Cole, Nicole Scherzinger. But unlike some earlier projects, the album cuts hold their own. The production feels intentional. The sequencing makes sense, and Diddy sounds more comfortable within the songs. His verses are sharper, not elite, but focused. Ghostwriters clearly understood the assignment. The familiar issues still exist. The runtime runs long. A few tracks linger past their welcome, but Press Play succeeds because Diddy finally plays to his strengths. He doesn't force dominance. He blends into the structure. He understands where he fits. This album marks the last moment where Diddy feels fully in control of his evolution. Not chasing, not drifting, adjusting. And that's why it lands just short of the top. First, No Way Out, the perfect storm. There was only one possible number one. No Way Out sits at the center of Bad Boy's rise, and nothing else in Diddy's catalog comes close to its impact. The timing alone makes it impossible to replicate. Bad Boy Records dominated the mainstream. The roster was stacked, and the shadow of Biggie's death gave the album a weight no feature list could manufacture. Every piece clicks. The production sounds massive. The hooks stick instantly. The guests feel motivated, not rented. Diddy understands his role here perfectly. He doesn't try to outshine anyone. He orchestrates. He positions. He keeps the energy moving. This album works because it feels urgent. Every song serves a purpose. Every collaboration advances the machine. More importantly, No Way Out captures a moment that could only happen once. Before the brand became self-aware. Before nostalgia set in. Before success dulled instinct. This isn't just Diddy's best album. It's the blueprint he spent the rest of his career chasing. What the albums really reveal. When you line these projects up, a pattern forms. Diddy's albums track control, gaining it, maintaining it, losing pieces of it over time. He thrived as an architect, as a curator, as the person who knew how to place talent in the right rooms. Once that edge softened, the music followed. That's why No Way Out still towers over the rest. Not because of bars, not because of ego, because it captured power at its sharpest. Drop your ranking in the comments. And if Last Train to Paris sits at number 1 for you, I already know you're typing fast. Thanks for watching. If this breakdown helped you see these albums differently, hit subscribe.